I believe there's great karmic suffering that can be avoided if we simply begin to change our ways. So I'm calling for a caretaker government, a caregiving body of people randomly selected, and it can be done in a quite formal way. It can be done in an informal way. But I believe it's necessary to, if we're going to have representative government and simply not government which is determined by, well, even the internet. I believe there's some value and great value in maintaining the humanity in representational government. But I think that as long as we tolerate 1 or 2% of the population determining who the candidates will be and then forcing them to stay in line, well, that's a pretty low level of representational government. So the alternative would be a jury-like selection of a man and a woman. Anybody who chooses to vote that way against the other politicians, then we would have a tribal-like system where the men and the women meet separately in circles and are not seeking domination, or not seeking to assert their authority, if you will, but finding an accord about our collective well-being as individuals, as children of God, as people in love with life. There are many people that believe somehow or other, by fearing death, they serve creation. I don't believe so at all. I believe that death is as much a part of life as birth. Birth and death and life are all elements of the same human experience. And when we begin to remember that none of us get out of here alive, then I think we become much more fearless in the service of our society. Where to go? The vision I had in 1975 indicated that we would re-ruralize our cities. In other words, take care of our own shit in our own backyard using solar energy, recycling on a scale which has never been explored before, through retrofitting what we currently have by not entering into a revolutionary period. But as Che Guevara himself said, basta la revolución, hasta la evolución. And I'm speaking for evolution. Yes, monetarism. I was at this parade, as I say, and when we arrived at the cenotaph, or the remembrance, the Garden of Remembrance there, the microphone was on, and they had a couple of speakers, but it seemed to me that there were certainly times there when it fell into a hush and nobody had an answer. And on those occasions, I would simply, pop up and say, monetarism is the problem, or let's have none of the above, and by this time I was getting surrounded by the quote unquote organizers, who are these people, anyway. I suspect I recognized, I know a few old activist friends among them, but, there was no free speech. It's been a long time in British Columbia since we had a truly honourable gathering, where free speech was allowed. We get a lot of Libby Davis and these other wannabes, but I don't think we really hear the commons speaking in the way that the commons should be heard. Anyway, I tried, and the next thing I know, the light suddenly went out. The next thing I know was there was a policeman standing by my side. They'd already switched the microphone off, so there was no chance to communicate with the 600 or 700 people that were there, on the whim of organizers who remained nameless and faceless, and with whom it was impossible to have any sensible conversation, because they were absolutely determined that there would be no access to the public stage by a simple common man who felt drawn by the Holy Spirit to be there to speak in the name of common sense and decency, and to transcend the planetary system of power brokerage, which is of course what really is a description of our current democracy. And it's all in the hands of the banksters. Now monetarism is on the table. It won't go away again. This is the end of pseudo-competitive capitalism, because that's what we've had. Everybody's been in bed with everybody else, playing with everybody else, and believing that somehow everyone's going to I say, transcend their fears. I don't know. I don't really what motivates people to do things which are so counterproductive in terms of collective well-being, so that the working classes are reduced to job jockey and wage slavery, and the opportunity for volunteerism, which is still present in the society, is significantly denied, and an endless stream of what can I call them? Political science majors, I guess, taking over the institutions, the civil liberties institutions, and the forestry, because they become lucrative sidelines for people who like to really do very little, non-productive work. And there's so much non-productive work, and the problem is that this kind of work, so-called work, uses up a huge amount of human energy, wasteful human energy. Anyway, I'm going to finish this now. I must have done 5 minutes or close to it. Oh, there's a little thing on here which says, oh goodness, 10, 20, cut.